Well, the Denver Nuggets have pushed through the distractions of the Carmelo Anthony trade talk to win 3 in a row. But after picking on Cleveland Saturday night, it's a big man game versus the San Antonio Spurs. The Spurs 36-4. That's San Antonio's best record through 40 games ever. Third best 40-game mark in league history. As for Carmelo Anthony, his titillating comments about a possible return to New York have fueled trade talk about a multiple-team deal that would send him to the New Jersey Nets. You've heard all about it. That's if he signs a contract extension. Melo recently told ESPN that playing in Gotham would be, quote, the ultimate dream, end quote. Well, our man on the story is TNT analyst David Aldridge, who joins us now by phone from Washington, D.C. And, D.A., you wrote last week that the deal will likely happen early this week. Do you stand by that story, and what is the composition of the deal as we speak?
Yes, I stand by the story, and the composition is the same as it's been reported, which would be, I mean, with one or two detail players to be thrown in or taken out later. But the main ones that you have to understand are that Chauncey Billups and Carmelo would go to New Jersey, and Troy Murphy would go to Detroit, Rip Hamilton would come to New Jersey, Derrick Favors would go to Denver, and a bunch of first-round picks would go to Denver, and a few other players to make the deal work. But the essentials are the ones that just mentioned. I mean, those are the guys that are the important players in this deal. And obviously for New Jersey, it would give them an opportunity to contend right away and keep Carmelo happy. So that's the main issue there, is that they want to try and keep Carmelo as happy as possible.
D.A., when you talk about this trade, you know we've been talking about, I know you've been talking about it for weeks. A team I like would just throw in the mix. Is there a possibility that the Mavericks can maybe woo Carmelo? You know, Mark Cuban talking about maybe he can take players that won't sign an extension anyway, maybe just to have a playoff run, because you saw Dirk's comments. He's saying the Dallas Mavericks basically have hit rock bottom. And if not Carmelo, is there anybody else you're hearing about maybe going to the Mavericks?
I mean, honestly, Smitty, I have not heard anything. That doesn't mean that anything couldn't happen, because, as you know, with Mark, he can inject himself into any deal whenever he wants, basically, with his ability to spend money and buy picks and things like that. So they could get into it. But I have not heard anything about them getting involved with Carmelo, simply because the assets that Denver wants in return are not really the assets that Dallas has. And also, I'm pretty sure that Denver is determined, if they're going to make this deal, they're going to trade Carmelo out of the conference. They do not want to see Carmelo 4 times a year after trading him. So at this point, New Jersey is the team that this is going to happen with. But I'm sure as we get closer to the trade deadline, especially considering Butler being out for the season, that they'll be in the market for a small forward. I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Well, D.A., enough about Prokhorov. I wanted to talk a little Kasparov for you. You know, obviously some chess pieces in play here. Do you think that, given the timetable here, that other teams are really interested in some of these players moving, even if the Nuggets aren't interested in retaining the rights to some of these players? Are you hearing some other things about teams being interested in those players that are on the move from those teams?
Well, sure. I mean, there's going to be a lot of teams, for example, interested in Troy Murphy. I mean, now Detroit has told everybody that they want to keep him, but I don't know that that's necessarily set in stone. I think that will be dependent on what other teams would offer. But that's an example of a guy that I think a lot of teams would have an interest in. He's an expiring contract. He's, obviously can rebound when he's healthy. And so for contending teams looking for a big man down the stretch who can also shoot the ball, as you know, he's a guy that a lot of teams would have an interest in after the trade. Now, obviously, they'd have to wait a little while before they could move him again, if they were inclined to move him. And again, like I said, they have told teams that they want that once this trade is done, their plan is to keep him and not move him along. But again, that's what they believe now, but that could change.
Hey, D.A., with Houston recently getting the mid-cap exception, what will that allow the Rockets possibly to do by the trade deadline?
Well, they can trade a player into that salary without giving up any salary back, is basically what that allows them to do. So for that $5.7 million, they can trade for a player up to that amount of money, and they can just send a pick back. And most times teams send a second-round pick back. So Houston is very active right now. They've been trying to get in on this Carmelo thing. I guess their basic position was, if if this deal falls through in New Jersey, please call us. I don't think they're going to get in on it, but they have a lot of players, whether it's Battier, Lowry. They've got players on expiring contracts. I'm sorry, Lowry's not on an expiring contract. He just signed an extension. But Battier is a player with an expiring contract that would have a lot of value trade-wise. And they've made it clear that they're, looking to move any and not everybody, but a lot of their players on their team, with the possible exception of Brooks. But so they're going to try to be very active by the deadline. I think that they feel like they have pieces, whether with Scola and Brooks, that they can build around and still be a contender in the West, even if Yao is done as a player for them.
All right, D.A., thank you very much for the information, David Aldridge. And can you just squeeze in one more story, perhaps Monday, before that deal goes down?
I can give. I'm going to give you this tidbit that I just got while I was on the phone with you. Someone told me that the Nets, someone who's involved in this told me that the Nets have indeed been given permission to talk face-to-face with Carmelo Anthony, and that was one of the big sticking points was their inability to talk to him face-to-face before a trade, because that would be tampering unless the Nuggets gave them permission to do so. I just was told 2 minutes ago while I was on the phone with you they've been given permission to do so they can communicate directly with Carmelo Anthony now. Okay. They can make their sales pitch to him about what they plan to do, and that's a big plus for them as they try to convince him to sign that extension with them.
All right, David Aldridge with the very latest on the Carmelo Anthony situation. And as we head to break, a reminder, the Nuggets Spurs on the floor at 9 p.m. Eastern in San Antonio. ESPN has the game. Game Time will have complete highlights as well as analysis of this one shortly after completion. Be right back.